Are you ready to learn, explore, discover, and have fun while watching? Come and join us as we bring you more learnings and ideas to share. I'm Teacher Kalai, and welcome to my channel.
Hi there! So for today's lesson, we are going to distinguish print media from viewing materials. Now before we start, let us try to analyze the survey conducted by Mrs. Rivera in her English class. Now try to look at it. Mrs. Rivera conducted a quick survey in her English class. She asked her pupils to choose between watching movies and reading books as their preferred activity during their leisure time. The result of her survey is shown here. Mrs. Rivera found out that 15 out of 20 or 75% of the boys love watching movies for their leisure time, while 5 out of 20 or 25% love reading books. On the other hand, she found out that 8 out of 20 or 40% of the girls love watching movies for their leisure time, while 12 out of 20 or 60% love reading books. With these results, Mrs. Rivera concluded that most of her pupils who are boys are into watching movies, while most girls among her pupils are into reading books during their leisure time. If you were Mrs. Rivera's pupil, what activity would you prefer to do for your leisure time? Would it be watching movies or reading books? Watching movies and reading books are activities that make use of our sense of sight. Movies are classified as viewing materials. Now, let's discuss about these two. Let's begin with viewing materials. When we say viewing materials, these are created or developed based on different aspects. They undergo processes and stages of production, pre, during, and post, before they are shown to people. The production staff, like the director, producer, scriptwriter, editor, cinematographer, etc., takes charge of the whole process of filmmaking. Movies or films also have different genres. Television shows and videos have different topics or themes for different age groups. When we say printed materials, these are the written materials like books, newspapers, magazines, journals, pamphlets, and the like. They serve different purposes and give various information to the readers. Each has distinct characteristics and purposes. In the succeeding discussion, we will learn more about the similarities and differences between viewing materials and printed sources of information. Now, what is it? When we say viewing materials, once again, they are visual in nature. These cover the whole range of non-text and non-audio materials, everything from original art, prints, and photographs. Visual materials encompass various forms including photographs, video films, videotapes, paintings, drawings, cartoons, prints, designs, and three-dimensional art such as sculpture and architecture. In this lesson, we will focus on viewing materials that contain moving pictures or images like films, movies, television shows, and videos. Now, remember when we say film, it is also known as a movie or a motion picture. It is a series of moving images shown on screen, usually with sound, that make up a story. It is a form of entertainment that enacts a story by sound and a sequence of images, giving the illusion of continuous movement. Films are similar to novels or short stories since they also tell a story or show real situations. They are recorded so they can be shown at the cinema or on television. When we speak a television program, it is also called a television show. It is a segment of content intended for broadcast on television. It may be a one-time production or part of a periodically recurring series. A single program in a series is called an episode. A television series that is intended to comprise a limited number of episodes is usually called a miniseries or serial. Television shows are most often scheduled for broadcast ahead of time and appear on electronic guides or other TV listings, but streaming services often make them available for viewing anytime. Television shows can be viewed live or real-time or be recorded on home video using a digital video recorder for later viewing, or be viewed on demand via a set-top box or streamed over the internet. A video is a program, movie, or other visual media product featuring moving images with or without audio that is recorded, reproduced, broadcasted, and saved digitally in a flash drive, external drive, CD, or in the computer. On the other hand, printed materials consist of all written materials which convey planned course information. Many print have digital versions that can be accessed online. Examples of printed resources include, but are not limited to, textbooks, workbooks, reference books, magazines, newspapers, and journals. When we say book, it is a set of written, printed, illustrated, or blank sheets made of ink, paper, parchment, or other materials fastened together to hinge at one side. Books contain information, stories, or poetry. Magazine, also called periodical. It is a printed or digitally published collections of text such as essays, articles, stories, poems, photographs, and advertisements, often illustrated, that is produced at regular intervals, excluding newspapers. And when we say a newspaper, it is a paper that is printed and distributed usually daily or weekly and contain news articles of opinion, features, and advertising. It is usually printed on relatively inexpensive, low-grade papers such as newsprint. In what ways do content materials viewed and printed sources of information become similar and different from each other? For viewing materials such as films or movies, television shows, or videos, we use viewing and listening skills to understand their message. Unlike for printed materials such as books, newsletter, magazines, journals, etc., we use reading skills to understand their message. For viewing materials, they use moving pictures or images. For printed materials, they use still pictures or images to support the text. For viewing materials, they are accompanied by sound effects. For printed materials, they have no sound effects. For viewing materials, they have opening billboard, closing billboard, end credits, etc. For printed materials, they have cover, title page, body, end page, etc. For viewing materials, they have a time duration. For printed materials, they have no time restriction. Readers may read them back and forth as long as they want. And lastly, for viewing materials, characters have dialogues and scripts. For printed materials, they use printed text to deliver their message to the readers. Viewing materials and printed materials have similarities and differences. They are similar because both have genres. They both contain themes and topics. They both provide meaningful information. They both teach lessons. And lastly, they both may tell or narrate a story, discuss, feature, persuade, and inform people about a certain topic. Viewing materials mostly appeal to the senses of sight and hearing, while printed materials appeal only to the sense of sight. In viewing, people are engaged in watching moving pictures and listening to the accompaniment of sound effects. In reading, people are engaged in understanding the text supplemented by still pictures or images. A Venn diagram is ideally used to show similarities and differences between two objects. Now let us try to recall the key concept presented in this lesson by completing the following statements with the correct word. So you may write your answer on a separate sheet of paper. For number 1, what V is an active process of attending and comprehending visual media such as television, advertising images, films, diagrams, symbols, photographs, videos, drama, drawings, sculptures, and paintings. What VM appeal to the eyes and ears of its viewers, examples of which are films or movies, television shows, and videos. Third, sources of information can be what PM. This consists of all written materials which convey planned course information. Fourth, a B is a set of written, printed, illustrated, or blank sheets made of ink paper, parchment, or other materials fastened together to hinge at one side and contains information, stories, or poetry. An M is a printed or digitally published collections of text such as essays, articles, stories, poems, photographs, and advertisements, often illustrated, that is produced at regular intervals, excluding newspapers. It is an N in which a paper that is printed and distributed usually daily or weekly that contains news, articles of opinions, features, and advertising. And finally, the use of V and D is an effective graphic organizer to show similar and different characteristics of two concepts. Now, if you're done answering, try to share it to your class and let your classmates listen to your work.
And that ends our discussion for this topic. I'm Teacher Kalai. Please do not forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more updated videos and learnings on my channel.